Bueno, hola, hey, hey, my. All right. 21st century awakening blues. That's just the opening, intro, work in progress. So as promised, we have Billy Shears' Memoirs book review part 2, because there's some points from part 1 I want to quickly elaborate on or clarify. So, in no particular order, except the order they came to me, here we go. Now, someone might say, well, this Billy Shears book, yeah, it sounds interesting and such, but really, in the grand scheme of things, is it really important? Sounds like it's like some kind of side distraction, some off-road entertainment, whatever, something just to pass time. My answer is yes, emphatically yes. It is important because it relates to the big picture. I mean, big, humongous, grande, mucho grande picture. And then some. So there. All right, I brought up this notion of conspiracy, and I didn't really follow through on it like I meant to at that moment in part 1. And I have in mind to do a very deep dive on this, the pyramid power structure of this earth realm. And I will be using Devlin the Mapmaker, Lewis Monroe's creation. Got a fabulous, huge creation diagram, very artistic, delineating in his eyes how the structure is built and who's on the bottom and who's on the levels coming up and who's at the top. And granted, he's a good researcher, so he's done his homework. And it's very thought-provoking. So I will order one of those, and then one of these videos will be a presentation of that, a breakdown. So thank you, Dylan, in advance. I'll post his link below for those of you who are interested, taking a look at his fabulous website. He's a very artistic dude, very well spoken, and he's a fellow long hair, so there's a muy simpático affinity. So, back to conspiracy. So we have the few at the top, right? Top of the pyramid power structure, who know the full picture. They've formulated amongst themselves what the objectives are. They've written down their mission statement, so to speak. And then every department below them, because it is, in fact, a corporation, is given their job on a need-to-know basis, right? They're only given the information they need to know to get their job done effectively. And of course, the top of the pyramid, they're in it for the long haul. They're looking multi-generations, way down the line, which begs the question, yeah, but they're going to die, so why is it so important to them? They're not going to be here to see the actual fruits of their results. Well, there's actually a very occult and esoteric answer to that, which I will not go into now. But remember, that occult means that which is hidden. It doesn't mean bad or evil. It means that which is hidden. And depending on how you use that which is hidden, you know, the information, the knowledge, the technologies, depending how you use that will determine intent, right? Will determine good, bad, indifferent, ugly, etc., evil, etc. So the departments below are given their jobs on a need-to-know basis, and it filters down the pyramid, you know, through the not so well-known organizations that throw their, or that what's the word, that exhibit, that flex their muscles, right? And I'll name a few, but I won't, because it won't mean anything to a lot of you. But then the next level comes, you know, the governments, academia, the various institutions we find, religious, academic, I said academic, scientific, research, and so on and so forth. And then into banking, etc., etc. But remember, we have a educational system in place that has laid a fantastic groundwork for subtle indoctrination. So even though the right words are always said, you know, think out of the box, be the best you can be, and so on, but behind that is a limited framework of controlled information that can be accessed on the surface. Now, naturally, if you're very diligent and ambitious and curious, you can do deep dives. Anyone can do deep dives. It's just a matter of having the wherewithal, mainly the willpower, to do the searches. Of course, now with the internet library at our hands, the searches are much, much more easier. You don't have to go into various libraries of all sorts, you know, research libraries, not just public libraries, research libraries, libraries where you need permission to enter certain departments. And in the old days, like decades ago, the folks like Jordan Maxwell would do that. And bless his heart, rest in peace. And they would go and spend days and days and on end in these various libraries and, you know, microfiche and all that stuff, reading and reading and reading, taking notes and putting the picture together, which is actually quite easy when you have access to the proper information. It stands out like two sore thumbs and then some. So continuing down the power structure, past these various institutions I just mentioned, you have law enforcement in the courts. Yes, they're there too. And there's a tight rein kept on them in general. Granted, like I said, the right words are bandied about. Freedom, democracy. And within certain parameters, this is allowed. People have to be convinced they do have freedom. Otherwise, the whole apparatus cannot work. Once they realize how much of an economic slave they are, the house of cards is going to come. And we're witnessing that. You know, it's happening right now. The question is, which direction will it go? To our favor, you know, the masses, Joe Average, or to the ruling elite? It has yet to be played out. I don't throw in the towel like I hear a lot of talk say, oh, we're screwed, nothing we can do, blah, nah. I don't buy that for 1 second. Because what we have is numbers. Numbers. Huge numbers. And we don't need violence. Violence is not part of this solution here. Violence just plays into their hands. It gives them full permission to come in wielding the clubs. Boom, 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 boom. We saw that on a certain January date, not too long ago, a couple of years or 2 or 3 years back. Agent provocateur, all that stuff. Those in the know exactly what I'm talking about. So then there's law enforcement, courts, blah, blah. And of course, we, Joe, regular, average, blue collar, and then below us, the poor, and even slightly above us, the higher the lower realm, lower levels of the upper class. We're all doing our thing, trying to prosper and survive and prosper, get ahead, etc. But pretty much we're at the bottom, we're at the bottom. So this is how this great machine lumbers forward, generation after generation, ticking off each plan in place, as far as what they wanted to accomplish in the terms of social engineering. Okay, enough on that. Next. Oh, this is sort of a random thing. So I was talking about the scientific method versus scientism, also known as science worship, religion posing as science, pseudoscience. Here's a joke. And as we know, comedy is meant to shine light using exaggeration sometimes, right? But where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of truth in stereotypes, we have to admit. But remember, stereotypes are called stereotypes for a reason. Everyone has to be judged on their own individual merit. We can't ever label any one group as bad or whatever, some kind of negative label. And also some kind of positive label. Nothing is truly monolithic that I'm aware of right now, in this moment, thinking of. Everything pretty much is shades of gray, right? Black, white, and shades of gray in between. The duality of this life in 3D land. That's how it is. How many angels can dance on the pin of a needle? Maybe. Maybe that's related. I like the sound of it. So, talking about the scientists. I should have told this in that video, but it escaped my mind. How can you tell a scientist, who is a scientist with integrity? How can you tell? The way you can tell is he or she is unemployed. That's how you tell. Wait. I can hear you all. All scientists are cheats? All scientists are on the take? All scientists are corrupt? No, of course not. It's just meant to illustrate a point that much of the mainstream scientific world is, corrupted by money, big money. So again, who wants to bite the hand that feeds them? And if you understand you can manipulate data to deliver a big paycheck, well, who amongst us could resist that temptation? It's a strong temptation. But it's only really strong if you have no proper spiritual grounding within you, right? If you're connected deep to source within and your sight is in the heavens, right? Sagittarius, the archer, aiming towards the heavens. And internally, you're connected to source, prime, benevolent creator, Mother, Father, God, in whatever aspect you understand according to the time and place you are growing up in, then chances are you're not going to be corrupted by any offer of that involves deception. But anyway, that was the joke. Here's a very important point. So in the book, Memoirs, Guillermo Shears, Billy Shears. He mentions towards the end, well, and he covers it, but at the end he sums it up as well. He gives 3 what he calls hard evidence proofs that he is in fact who he says he is, and that he did in fact replace biological Paul in late 1966. And those 3 proofs are, number 1, there was the incident in Japan where Billy, I believe he was on a Wings tour. I can't remember that specific detail, but it was definitely post-Beatles, after the Beatles had broken up. So he tried to enter Japan to perform, but he had a bunch of marijuana in his possession. He probably got a little big-headed and thought he could pull it off. Anyway, he was busted by the authorities, the Japanese authorities. So they had him there in the holding tank, interrogating him, and they received and they were going to follow through. You know, they weren't going to cut him slack just because he looked like, you know, they thought he was Paul McCartney, right? Coming to perform for the fans. No, they were going to do a little, we'll show you who's boss around here. We'll make you sweat a little. So when the fingerprints arrived from Interpol, because that's where biological Paul's fingerprints were on record, owing to the fact that he and Pete Best, original drummer of the Beatles in Hamburg, Germany, had accidentally lit a fire in their living quarters and it got under control. So, you know, fire department, police had to come, put it out, whatever. They made a big thing out of it, even though there really was no serious threat to the building. Anyway, they were fingerprinted, you know, mugshots, etc. So biological Paul's fingerprints were there on file. They arrived in Japan. Japanese authorities attempt to match him up with Billy's, and guess what? No go. Niet. Nada. So here we have a conundrum. The fingerprints do not match. And of course, they dig into Billy more, attempting to get some verifiable, how do you say it? Verifiable truth out of him. But he's probably holding, you know, his cards close to the vest, and he's not giving too much information other than, hey, look, Paul McCartney, what's the problem? I don't know why they don't match. Anyway, he probably puts in the word, why don't you connect someone in England? And he might even give him a name or department. This part I don't remember how much details he divulges. Anyway, someone flies over from Britain, some high-ranking, whether he was an official or a unofficial, if you know what I mean, met with Japanese authorities and explained the situation and told them most likely, zip it. And the Japanese authorities realized, yes, Papa-san, we recognize your rank and we'll do your request, slap on the wrist to Billy, and we won't say anything more about this as you requested us. So all was, you know, made lovey-dovey. They patched it up, and Billy was, whatever the outcome was, he describes it in the book, whether they allowed him to continue touring or they just said, you know, go home, so we don't have to, so we can save some face, you know. Billy describes that more in the book. The second incident is a paternity lawsuit was brought by a young German lady against biological Paul, you know, on behalf of her daughter. She had a daughter from biological Paul, but by the time she got around to filing the paternity suit, unfortunately, biological Paul had passed away, unbeknownst to practically everybody. So when this case makes its way in the German court, who do they have to call? Well, Billy, in the role of Paul, but they don't know he's Billy. So they call him, and he submits a DNA sample. And guess what? DNA sample does not match. And Billy goes into details about that too, that I don't remember. How that all worked out, the yin and yang of it. So the case was defeated. The lady, the young mother, filing suit for the paternity on behalf of her daughter, biological Paul's daughter, was not awarded anything. Her case was dismissed based on the DNA not matching. And the final proof is in the late 1960s, this professor from somewhere in Florida, he did a voice print on Billy's voice and biological Paul's voice from the recordings. Now, a voice print is much like a fingerprint in that its depth of analysis is such that you can distinguish how each voice is unique. No voice is matches another, much like our fingerprints. Now, Phil from Wings of Pegasus on YouTube, he did a program last year about this subject, Billy's voice versus Paul's, except he did not do the voice print that this professor did. Phil, he's a great guitarist, by the way, and a great instructor. He's British, I believe. He did some other kind of test that involves, testing the sound of the voice. But that test is pretty much known amongst those in the know, does not do what Phil thought it could do, which is to give that unique identification to the voice like a voice print can, that this professor in Florida did in the late 1960s. So maybe I'll post that Phil's analysis, but Mike Williams, Sage of Quay, did a rebuttal to that, and he posted something. I don't know if it's a standalone video. I'll have to look into it. And he explained why Phil's method just won't stand up. It's not accurate in the way Phil thought it could be. So those are the three proofs that Billy calls hard evidence. And, let's see if I marked something here. I meant to mark something here. Remember Art Metrano? Well, lo and behold, I changed my marker here, and in relation to the professor's finding of the voice print, Paul did point out that article actually appeared in Life magazine in the late, it's probably 1968 or so. Good luck tracking that down today. But no one really paid much attention to it or gave it serious, that it had merit. So it just came and went and got buried. And the other two cases as well, it definitely, most likely was not broadcast in mainstream media about fingerprints not matching. In the Japanese case, in the paternity case in Hamburg, Germany, yeah, that could be get a mainstream mention because paternity cases are dismissed all the time on DNA evidence. All right, so I mentioned going on next. I had mentioned anything is reversible in Billy Shears Part 1. My video, I mentioned anything is reversible. Let's look at death, though. Death does not appear to be reversible. The body will gradually decline and wither away. We don't like that. It's painful to us personally when ours does it, but when we see our loved ones go through that, very, very disturbing. But let's question this. Is physical death reversible? I'm just going to touch lightly on this. Now we have records, biblical records, ancient Vedic records, and other parts of the world. They talk about humans in former ages having incredibly long lifespans. Now, one can dismiss this as just mere mythology, whatever, or one can say, maybe there's something to this. So there's that. And also there's, I've come across material, but it was long ago. I'd have to do an internet search, which I didn't do yet. but it talks about a discipline, a practice, and it's very hardcore. It involves a lot of things involving diet and breath and austerities, control of the senses. But your aim is to transform your physical body into a body of light. So you more or less are bypassing the physical death process. You're stepping over death's head, in a sense. But again, that's a very rare thing. But apparently, a few have done it here and there. Take that for what it is. So, Supernatural Beatles channel, she did a Memoirs update, 2023, the 2023 version released in April. Great presentation. And she went through much of what are called whispers that I talked about in the previous Billy Shears Memoirs book review video. The whispers were these faint texts, smaller than the font footnotes in Billy Shears Memoirs. And some folks had to get magnifying glasses and go out in the bright sunshine of the day to read these. That's why they're called whispers. They're hidden, right? Another aspect of occultness, that which is hidden. So my brother, David, I gave him this book to read. I talked about it. He got interested. I gave it to him to read, and his head went a few times, 180s. So he pointed out, because he did watch this, what I'm talking about here, he watched this Supernatural Beatles update on the Whispers, 2023 version. And he said, bro, there's some really far out stuff in there. Like, I don't know, man. This sort of like, are Billy and Tom the poet and coder, are they trying to, bring down their presentation in the book? Are they trying to deflate it? Are they trying to poke holes in it with some of these whispers? Because they're really far out, as in unbelievable. I mean, even for me, right? And I told them, well, it's like she said, Supernatural Beatles. I forget her name. She's an English lady. She said, take what resonates. Back to that theme. You take what resonates. And we use our discernment to determine, well, is this plausible? Is this probable? There you go. And I want to mention a Tom U. Harriet email exchange that I had. When I first ordered the book, the edition I wanted, it turned out was not available. And I didn't know that until Tom quickly emailed me, like fast, and explained, the edition I wanted was not available. I think I wanted a hardcover version. But if you wait a couple months, 2021, because this was year 2021, updated one will come out. You can get that. Very nice, very nice. He had a great customer service vibe, Yeah. So I wrote back, thanks, Tom, I appreciate it, but I can't wait. I need this book now. So I just opted for the soft cover that was available at that time, and I got it and quickly, and I began my read. And then, and he did want to know, so I let him know that I got it, and he wanted to know what I thought of it. He emailed back. So I wrote back, I'm on page 40, and I tell you, head is spinning, jaws on the floor. This is just absolutely incredible. Quite a presentation. And then I had mentioned to him a little bit about my background, as far as education, spiritual background as well, my Roman Catholic upbringing, my time in born-again Christianity within that circle, and also being a true believer of Hare Krishna for 25 years or so. Of course, in all these groups and there's a few other things I was involved in that I did not mention to Tom, like Est, for example, Werner Erhard's Est. That was a great ride there. I learned a lot there. But there's that joke when people, gangsters try to leave the mafia. Is this from Goodfellas or where's it from? It's one of those films. Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in, right? So, even though I said I was a true believer of Hare Krishna, maybe I should clarify that. In my heart, I still am. I'm just not a big, it's just not in my nature to be involved with institutions on a daily basis. God bless them. They do great work. And of course, the Catholic, I took what I needed from that experience, 12 years of Catholic school and training, grammar school and high school. And then my time in the Born Again circle, taking what resonated. Of course, some would say, well, you missed the boat there. You shouldn't have left. That was your mistake. That's for another time and place to talk about that. So those influences are there, right? Yeshua, he's my guide, my teacher, my number one. But there's all these other experiences I've had too. With Bhagavan Krishna, right? With Mother Mary. And there you go. I'm going to be true to what inspires me to become a better human and to help others, to help myself and to help others, to create a better world in whatever little way I can. I'm going to be true to that. And if that takes me out of orthodoxy, that takes me out of established institutions, so be it. I'm quite happy to be on my own, independent. You hear talk about sometimes loneliness, but I say loneliness is a misconception. There's aloneness, and then there's loneliness. Now, to me, loneliness only comes from a misunderstanding of who and what you are. If you're connected to Source, God within the heart, which you are, but we forget. But once we reestablish that, we're never alone, ever. So going back to religious institutions, I'm going to do my William F. Buckley Jr. Check. I mentioned it in last video as well. I had some positive words to say about it. And yeah, I did not mention, but it's known, we all know it pretty much. Organized religion is mainly the big three in the West, right? We know who they are. And even in Hinduism, you find a lot of bloodshed going on throughout the years, killing in the name of God. Yeah, bad scene, violence. I mean, there's righteous self-defense, right? That's one thing. But this whole killing in the name of God, to plant our holy book over yours, to build our holy structure over yours, not yours. Yeah, that's very unfortunate. It happens. It happened. But I'm not a big fan of throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So I understand a lot of people find comfort interacting with organized institutions, including religious institutions. So that's there for them. Now, ideally, they do the deep dive. They don't just float on the surface of the social, mundane interaction that comes with people of like-mindedness Hopefully they are real students. And this goes for anyone on any path. To be a real student is to constantly doing the deep dive and questioning, always questioning. Why do I believe what I believe? Why do I accept reality, this particular way? To come to a point of, it was a little, let me show you what I got. Presto changeo. And now, watch me pull a squirrel out of my hat. Or you can't see, but there's with a magic marker, I wrote an image here, a power image. That is good for third eye. Remember I talked about third eye? Pineal gland, right? Pineal gland, third eye. Metaphysical seeing, spiritual seeing. So there's all kinds of little tricks and techniques and protocols to get that third eye awakened and get it in a healthier state. So I was on that point of religious institution. There was a point I was making there, and then I got sidetracked with Rocky and Bullwinkle. Is there any greater cartoon than Rocky and Bullwinkle? There's some that could rival, perhaps. Let me think. Yeah, everyone will say The Simpsons, right? But yeah, I'll go with Rocky and Bullwinkle. Boris, Natasha, how subversive was that, right? The Cold War, you got Boris and Natasha. That was pretty darn hilarious. So let me talk a little bit about my history with memoirs. There's this UK researcher, Mark Devlin, and he does things on the music and entertainment industry. And I happened to find him one day because the all-knowing YouTube algorithm put him in my feed, and I clicked and, oh, I like this. And thank you, all-knowing YouTube algorithm. There's a lot to be said about artificial intelligence. That'll be another video. So one day I clicked on one of Mark Devlin's. It had something to do with the Beatles. And then he started talking about, Paul is dead. And I immediately changed it because, everyone knows that's not true, right? That's what I thought at the time, because I had heard the Paul is dead rumors in late 1960 when I was a youngster. I guess I was around, becoming a teenager, and I had heard them, and I just thought, funny, fans having fun. Of course, Paul is not dead. I can see him there on the Hey Jude video. What are you talking about? I can see him there on the Let It Be cover. I can see him there on Abbey Road. I can hear him. That's Paul. What are you talking about? So as soon as I saw Mark Devlin make mention of that on this particular video, and this was in 2021, I just changed it. Not interested. Yeah. And then later on, I saw where Mike Williams, Sage of Quay, whom I came to encounter on the YouTube as well. I liked his work. I still do. He's a great researcher. He spent decades in the corporate world. He reinvented himself as a certified hypnotherapist, trained hypnotherapist. He got so good that he went into the field also of past life regression. So, he did well in that. And he retired after some years. But anyway, I heard him being interviewed by one Sophia Smallstorm. And the interview was about this book. And I had never heard of this book. So it didn't take long for me to hear him talking about this book, where I said, I got to get this book. And sure enough, I had that exchange with Tom after I ordered, got the book. I'm on page 40. I emailed Tom back. Yeah, mind blown. I'm duly stupefied. Pick me up, right? Give me a little Epsom salt. Wake me out of my stupor. And then Tom's final response, because it was just a short, 2 or 3 email exchange overall. He said, your religious, your spiritual, and your Beatles background, because I was a big Beatles fan, of course. George was my man from day one. That's interesting. George Harrison, and now Jorge Santana, 2 Georges. That's pretty awesome. Anyway, so Tom's talking to me in the email. Your religious, spiritual, and Beatles background will certainly make this mystery tour amazing. He was not exaggerating. So that's my history with the memoirs. And I think that's it. That's all really I wanted to say. Cover those points. And let me give a quick deep breath. See if there's anything else. Well, upcoming attractions. So I mentioned what's coming up. I want to do that deep dive with Devlin the Mapmaker, also known as 145. That's his Pleiadian code name. I want to do a breakdown on his, there's a nice big, artistic placard. There's that. I did a Facebook post a day or two ago regarding 8 or 9 books that strongly rebut the C9 teen official story. So I wanted to do a video on that, going into those books a little more in detail, but that will be on another platform because I need to talk freely. And here I cannot talk freely. Here there's a lot of, what's that say? Skirting around the bush, dancing across on the razor's edge. So that will be on another platform. That will be coming up in June sometime. Well, June's around the corner anyway. I have a plan to introduce an interview series entitled Remarkable Gente, right? Remarkable People. Gente means people in Espanol. Remarkable Gente. And my first guest, I will let the cat out of the bag. My first guest will be the illustrious Miss Dorothy Lee Donahue. Fantastic, wise, philosopher, loving, grandmother, teacher, with quite the healing talents on all levels. And I met her when I injured my back in 2014. I had an encounter with a big wave in San Clemente. And I was able to drive home somehow, but I could not return to work. So I found her on an internet search. How does that happen? Needle in a haystack. But we've been good friends since then. So I want to present her story to you because she's got an amazing story. That will be upcoming. That will be the debut of Remarkable Gente. And I plan to have more, depending on who will agree to come on camera with me. She graciously accepted when I extended the invitation, so we'll see. We have a tentative date, Sunday in June, to record, and we'll see what becomes of it. So what else? That's all I can think of for the moment, and that's plenty. Have a great day. Keep up the good fight. Offer blessings wherever you go, even to those that you may feel do not deserve blessings. There's a lot to be said about that. Love your enemy. To me, this is what love your enemy means, one aspect of it. You wish them well, actually. You wish that they recover from their illness, their defective way of thinking about themselves and the world, their darkness that they're enveloped in. Of course, now I'm talking about my enemies, right? The men behind the curtain. And even some other small fry here in the building, which I will not go into detail too much, but when we can, right, put ourselves in a forgiving state of mind Speaking of forgiveness, Forgive for Good by Dr. Fred Luskin. A dear friend gave me this. We all hear how forgiving, right, is beneficial. We hear it within, religious and spiritual communities, but also even amongst non-religious and non-spiritual communities. We hear that forgiveness is a good practice, and it is. So Dr. Fred Luskin, in this little book, Forgive for Good, he details the scientific study of forgiveness. It's great. So we forgive. We don't have to forget, but we forgive. And loving your enemy, to me, means we wish them well when we're able to, right? Because sometimes we're not in a particularly good state of mind ourselves, and we may actually hurl a bunch of invective, right, negatives at our enemy, thinking that's the good thing to do, or that's what'll work, that's what's going to solve the issue. But in reality, that's more or less undermining our own position. We're just hurting ourselves, really, ultimately. So it's better to be a blessing machine. We don't have to forget, but it's better to be a blessing machine, offering goodwill. Johnny Dharma Seed, like I briefly mentioned. Johnny Dharma Seed is first cousin to Johnny Appleseed. But Johnny Dharma Seed, right? Dharma, right? Dharma means like life purpose. What else does it mean? Proper way of living, etc. But who determines what is proper? Well, we look to nature. We look to natural law. If we look at nature, we can learn so many things. Yes, the animal world is violent because one being is eating another, alive no less. But there's other aspects of nature we can observe and learn valuable lessons. So Johnny Dharma Seed, he walks around sowing seeds of goodwill and healing and harmony and blessings, because he sees that demon or demigod, we got to work this out together. Yeah, we have disagreements on strategy and application of ideologies, but do we really want to have endless bloodshed generation after generation? No, because it doesn't solve anything. If we truly want to move forward and create a more harmonious world, evolve closer to a Garden of Eden, forgiveness is paramount. Forgiveness is foundational, but also justice. Not revenge, but justice. So unfortunately, the bulk of our court systems around our earth realm are corrupted in varying degrees. But you know what? We don't want to take the law into our own hands necessarily to administer justice. That's a very slippery slope. So let us pray to our divine source to help us in administering a more equitable justice to the wrongs that we see, a more effective justice to the wrongs we see, because we need help. It's beyond any human capacity when you think about it. We're going to need a little supernatural divine help here, and it will come. Knock on the door, ask, you shall receive. We just have to have our focus, on God's grace, benevolence. Now, let me say a word to my atheistic and agnostic brethren and sisters. I don't understand how you could stay at such a position. That's beyond my realm of understanding. But I don't hold it against you. I understand it. And I think a lot of us do. We're all on our unique individual journeys. And we pass through so many phases of understanding. And we keep evolving, hopefully, right? If we're a good student, if we're a sincere seeker, we keep evolving. Our level of understanding grows deeper and richer and more encompassing, more harmonious. And we're less perturbed by the material plane and into all its activities and shenanigans. And we're more absorbed in the higher current, descending, not just descending, but flowing from within, nourishing us, nurturing us. So, on that note, ciao, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.